Going live in 3, 2, 1. Hey, we're live. So, hey everybody, thanks for checking out my final weekly stream of the year, and probably of this project at least on this basis of doing it Saturdays at 9 PST or PT Pacific time. This is the 52nd one, so for 52 weeks, which is like a year, basically. I've been doing this. I guess the next stream, the first one was January 2nd, and yeah, the next Saturday is January 1st. So I'm actually planning on this coming Sunday to do like a release party, and I'm gonna change over my dustinbread.com domain to this app, and everybody can start finding all the bugs and playing with it and that kind of thing. And I'm also gonna do some demonstrations of it this episode, and then we'll get to the usual streams where I do my code commits. But I figure might as well do a bit of a demo as this is the last stream, and it's we can kind of see the progress along the way. So please feel free to. Oh, also the side project is me doing an OS in the browser, web desktop environment, whatever you want to call it, Windows 10 clone like. I don't know if I even remember mentioning it in the first episode, but the idea behind this was that it's for my personal website, and that it was when someone comes. I wanted my website to be as if someone was to sit on my computer, and just to be able to click around stuff and find things about me, basically, as if they were on my computer looking through my files, kind of thing. So to do that, basically, I use Windows 10, so I decided to try to recreate Windows 10 to get that experience across. And yeah, what are some other updates I got for today? So yeah, if there's a live chat, feel free to throw some messages. I see I already got a message here from Abrar22 and Crepinson. So Crepinson Productions. Thank you guys for checking it out. I've seen you many times before. Crepinson, I've seen you at least once before. Abrar, I've seen many times. Is always suggesting stuff. Add Quake 1 to the site. Okay, that's an easy one actually. I've had a DOS version of Quake 1. I was considering adding it. I can't remember why I didn't. I think it was too big. Hey, I'll do a demo of it right now, in fact, Abrar, for you. So if we go to DOS games, I think it is. That's dosgames.com. See if these guys have Quake. Somebody has Quake. Anyways, it's trivial to get. There it is, Quake right here, Quake 1. Ignore this, ignore the classic ads. So it says here, download the game for free as a dosbox.zip. So we'll press download. We see it goes down here. Now we switch to my app. We can drag it on here, drop it in, and now we can right click it, and oh, wait a minute, why isn't that working the way I expected? Interesting, interesting. Why is it empty? Well, it's a zip file. Maybe it's because it's capitalized zip. I think I might have actually fixed this episode involving capitalization. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I fixed this episode, but let's make a quick note of that because I'm already finding bugs. So I have my next stream notes where oh, there is no next stream, I guess. Follow-up fixes. There's going to be more streams, there's going to be more videos, but they're not going to be these 3-hour, 2-hour, 3-hour Saturday things necessarily. Let's say zip didn't work, question mark? Or didn't, yeah. I think I fixed that though. That's just a capitalization thing. So let's get back to the example here. We right click this. So now if I open it, it opens properly, mounts. We can see that there's the quake.exe in there. We right click, we go open with, and we have two emulators. We have like a Windows emulator or we have a DOS emulator. We're going to open it in DOS because this is a DOS game. Wait for it to load here. There we go. We don't have any execution script. If we turned it into a JS-DOS file, we would, but we don't. So we just look through here. We see, okay, it's Quake. Let's run Quake. It boots up. And there we go. We're in Quake. You can play single player, new game. You can maximize this here. So you can see how, Abra, you can kind of build your own games with it. And you'd be able to save this and go back to this. And you could it also does save states as well. So let's say I want to save at this point. How do I save? I don't even know how you save in this game. Quit. Press yes to return to your... What? Dislikes his children trying to quit. That's funny. Even the quit menu is weird. Okay, I don't even know if you can save in this game. Maybe you can't. That'd be weird if you can't, but anyway, the idea is you press close, and then if you open it again, it actually kind of keeps your progress as far as what files have been written. But it didn't seem like there was an opportunity to save, so I wouldn't have expected it to remember much. It'd be cool if it just worked, but yeah, I don't know. It works for Doom or whatever. Yeah, look, oh wait, there was a load and save there. Oh, darn it. So I guess I could have done it there. Let's try to do this example one more time. I'm gonna go here to the fire. Then I say it. Oh, then I just pressed the wrong button. Nice. We'll get to why I pressed the wrong button and that happened, by the way. That's like a whole other thing. Okay, well, how do I do it here? This is, okay, save. That is not a nice menu. Did I save it? I guess that's saved. Okay, it said it's saved. So now we close it. And let's say you were one of my users on my site. Now you refresh, you come back to my site another day. It's still here. You go back to JS-DOS. And you could also do more tweaking inside the website to make it run a different way if you wanted to. Get Quake running again. And it should have the game saves this time. Let's see. Single player, load. Yeah, there we go. Introduction. And we're right back to where we started. So there we go. So we got a full Quake experience there, Abrar. And you could use that example for any DOS game. And it also works for some Windows games too, because I have a Windows emulator. Let's get back to the show notes. What else I was yapping about here? Next thing on my itinerary. Oh yeah, I said leave comments, live chat. Also throw me a like if you like what I'm doing. Only if you like it, give me a like. And if you want to subscribe, that'd be great. It keeps me motivated, keeps me moving, that kind of thing. So feel free to do that as well. And let's take a minute to talk about a few other new things. So I have some new lights, as you may notice. I'm a little more well lit. I bought some kind of streamer style lights, and I'm just trying them out. This is the first day, so they're not perfectly tuned. Still getting more shadow than I'd like on my microphone. And I've also got, for Christmas, I just got these nano leafs, which are pretty cool. I'm noticing this microphone's kind of blocking it, so there's some work to be done with the microphone, and I'm still kind of thinking on that. But other than the microphone, yeah, we got some new lights, and then also we have I got a new keyboard as well. And it has a few macro buttons that now allow me to switch between the different views more easily. And that was the mistake button I pressed, as it's right beside escape. So, but yeah, those were the little show updates. Nothing too fancy. And one other thing I wanted to show you guys here, just in regards to streams. So I decided to wear the same thing. I actually was already wearing the same hoodie, and then I went to go look at the video, and I was like, oh, I was wearing the yellow shirt. I think I have that still. So I figured, hey, I'll put the yellow shirt on too. Looks like I was kind of rocking the same kind of beard. It looks like it was a little more heavy in that video. I kind of like it like that, so I'll probably at least let it grow that far again. But you could see my walls before were a little bare. I didn't have all my notes, my to-dones and to-dos. I had a little, looks like I had written some stuff on the whiteboard. I had some basic ideas I was kind of panning out. I also had a higher field of vision. Looks like I was backed out all the way to the back. I didn't have my picture up. So things have changed anyways. I didn't have the telescope, my kid's telescope. But yeah, if you see this first video, how did I end it here? I ended it with this. So 52 weeks ago, I had this hello world, and I went through all the Next.js setup. And I've done, this is stream 52, so I've done 52 of these now of kind of working on this project here. If you see my playlist here, Make an OS with React. And yeah, this is, got 53 videos in here because one time I did a demo that's in this playlist. But other than that, this makes, this one here at the bottom is the newest one, the one happening right now. And yeah, we got, if at any point you want to see how I did any of the things in this project, they're all here. And like I said, let's do some more demos. So that was one cool demo. I see another message here from Abrar. Add Need for Speed DOS version. Okay. Well, I showed you about DOS, so that's one cool thing to think about. Let me show another example of a Windows one. So here's a cool one. Heroes of Might and Magic. Oh, my keyboard failed me already. I'm still kind of getting used to it. Heroes of Might and Magic 2 shareware. So if we go to this abandonware games, let's say, I'm not sure if this one's even the one. Maybe they have it. I think they have like some Windows demo version. Here we go. PC. 184 megabytes. All right. Oh, nice ads again. Thank you, ads. So let's get this file. It says it's going to download in 2 seconds. I'm impatient, but I'll wait. Come on, still waiting. All right, I'm just going to click this. I didn't have the time. Okay, so it's only going to take a few seconds to download, hopefully. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be the full version or something. 184 megabytes. That seems like a lot. I got a few other recommendations here from Abrar. Talking about Dreamcast as well. I've looked at the Dreamcast emulator. That would be a cool one if we could get that one. That's one I'm considering. The Super Nintendo emulator is easy enough. Okay, this is not the heroes I wanted. Well, while this is going, let's do another interesting demo that I've showed in my past episode, but I'd like to show in regards to Windows apps. So people know Notepad++. It's everybody's friendly app. So what we're going to do is we're going to download the 32-bit version, x86, portable zip. Now, if we go to my webpage here, so next week, you'll be able to just go to dustinbrett.com and play with this stuff. So to download it, you drag it on here, and then you can right-click and say Open with Boxed Wine, and that's a Windows emulator, and that's actually going to open a Windows app and basically a sandbox. My website's like a sandbox to be able to play with different stuff. I mean, one thing I thought of is you could even like run viruses in this thing, I think. I'm not sure what exactly would happen, but it's some fun idea you could do. You wouldn't have to be too worried about it. It's unfortunately a little slow. That's one thing you get with emulation. I've actually talked to the people that made this. They've done some posts, and they're pretty good at getting back to me on GitHub. And basically, yeah, the Emscripten version, the WebAssembly version, is a little slow for various reasons. But as you can see, there we go. I got Notepad++ running on my website. So it's like, no, it's not something you can download from my website. You can run it on my website. So you could literally run this on a phone. Like if you were just on your phone, you could run. I mean, I can't stress this enough that this has nothing to do with the platform. This is if you go to this website and you're on a browser that supports. These are just basic features that modern browsers support, not the old ones. But you got a typical modern browser, you're going to be able to do this stuff. Another cool feature. What are some other cool things? Let me refresh this. So you can manipulate the files. Let's say we want to move them up here. You can move them up here. You can right click and delete two of them at the same time. I got this little selection thing I made, just like the old Windows one. We got the start menu, everybody knows and loves. Made some cool effects. As you see here, there's like the spotlight effect going on, kind of, as you hover over it. I got the different folders with some games in it. I've added Commander Keen, Doom, Duke Nukem, Jazz Jackrabbit, Space Cadet, like the Windows Space Cadet. And I got my emulators here. We got a DOS one. We got one for Flash. We got one for x86 stuff. I think this episode I put the Boxed Wine one in there too. Right now it's here, but it is an emulator and it should actually be up there. We've also got a browser. This episode I add a bookmark bar to the browser so that we can access some websites that I don't, they're not easy to support, but I can give you kind of an iframe into it, such as Diablo, such as Minecraft. So those are some cool ones we'll be able to play in my app, I guess, via this browser. I'm also do some other visual tweaks to the browser this episode, I believe. Same with the PDF viewer. I have a viewer for PDFs. I do some tweaks to that. And that's another one I think I have an example file of my resume now. Not that I'm looking for work at all, by the way. Totally uninterested. Totally happy where I am. But yeah, you can drag in. There you go. And I can just drag in and then I have the PDF of my resume. You know, you can zoom in, zoom out. As I go through it, you see the page thing updates. Basically, I tried to make it look like the PDF, the Chrome PDF one. Oh, interesting. I think I maybe fixed this today. When I closed PDF, it like complained. I'm not sure I did fix that. Let's put that in the notes as well as a follow-up. Closing PDF caused error? Question mark. Also, this episode I memoized a bunch of stuff, kind of add a lot of use callback and use memo in an attempt to optimize some stuff. Another Abrar message here. Dreamcast Sonic Adventure 1 ROM. Yeah, I think there might be a Dreamcast emulator. Do you know of it? I mean, if you can point me in the direction of a Dreamcast emulator for WebAssembly, I'd be interested. But at the same time, I'm a little worried with emulators, and I try to kind of stick to the safe zones. That's why I don't have a Super Nintendo one in there either. These games are all shareware games. Most of these games I had on my original version of this fake OS thing that I was working on. This one's a way more advanced version. Not of Commander Keen, but of my OS. Again, you can run Commander Keen. You can actually run multiple things, although JS-DOS kind of gets a little funky with multiples. I got a built-in dev tools, so you can actually inspect the website that's running, which is kind of meta, a little Inception-y, I might say. Got my Monaco text editor. I'm going to do some improvements to that today as well. So that when we open it, there should be information here already. But if I put a file in there, you see we get some cool information. Can select the selection thing. I actually do a lot of little improvements this episode now that I'm seeing these little flaws. I think for the emulators too, right? Now if we open DOS, it does do something? No. That seems to be acting weird. Maybe that's a one-time thing. Let me try that again. I think that's actually busted, yeah. But I think that's the thing I fixed this episode. Let's see, the Virtual 86 is the same. Yeah. So what I do now is, any app you open from the start menu, I want it to do something. It's the same with the Ruffle emulator. I think I add too. Like I add a little thing that says drop a flash file in here because that's how their website looks. For JS DOS and for Virtual 86, for the x86 one, I basically just show like almost like a computer booting when you don't have any boot disks in it, where it's just like can't find disk to boot kind of thing. For the DOS one, I actually fully just load into DOS as if you were opening an old school command prompt or something. So we're gonna do that today. Here's another start menu thing I have. If you hover close to the scroll, it'll actually appear, which is kind of neat. And I've customized it dark as well. That's not the native color, but it is for my Windows 10 dark mode. Got a photo viewer as well. That one's decently working. The terminal, I'm pretty proud of my terminal here. This does a lot of cool stuff. I actually have a ton of commands. As you can see here, I've kind of tried to support all the well-known stuff to some degree, I have to say. Like, first, we're talking Windows first, so it's not like I don't have all the Linux commands like grep and stuff, but I do have some of the Linux aliased commands. So if you type ls, you're going to get my version of dir, basically, that kind of thing. But yeah, I have a lot of commands in here. I almost forget all the stuff I got in here. We can got the task list in here so you can see what's running. I could do like a suicide on it here, kill terminal, close my own terminal kind of thing. But yeah, there's a lot in the background to make that happen. That was no relation to the terminal. It's like the terminal goes into the fake processes and does a fake kill command and all that stuff. I got my little WYSIWYG editor where I do my blog. So I got my blog posts here, like so. You can look at my old blog posts. And also when you click the pictures, they open in my fake photo viewer. It's like I had some pimples back then. I don't have too many now that I'm older. What else? We got the video player, kind of skinned it like VLC. Not using the VLC backend. It is an option to use VLC in JavaScript. But it's kind of early days for that. The browser doesn't support a lot of what's necessary to make that work properly. So I'm really just using a video element, and it only supports a few codecs. I also got like a Winamp clone via the WebAmp guys. Tried to integrate it as much as possible so that it feels like the app running. What else we got? I mean, I got a lot of custom content that I put on here as far as directories and stuff. I'm also going to do some optimizations this episode to kind of clean things up. One example is icon cache. I finally got the icon cache. So if you see right now, like let's say these are my wedding photos. If I didn't have an icon cache, then you see right now this picture is actually, its intrinsic value is 1500 by 1000, and there's 450k kilobytes. So there's like, how many megabytes are here? Basically, to come and view this folder, 7.2 megabytes. So if a user just started opening folders, they might end up downloading like 100 megabytes from my site. So now what I've done is I've created an icon cache, because these actually do make little icons. I actually download the whole file, put it as the image, and then shrink it to really tiny as the icon. And now what I've done is that the initial time that is done, it takes the little shrinked image and turns that into an image that it makes as a cache file. And then so I did that. I go through all the folders, made all my cache, and then I actually downloaded all of that, compressed those pictures even further via like a compression program. And now I'm hosting the thumbnails. So now when my new users come to the site, it's already going to have pre-generated thumbnails for all my like big files. And if they come along and they add a video or something, it'll generate new icon cache for their experience on the site. But at the moment I don't have it here. Oh, I hope it did not delete it. Yeah, I don't think it did. Yeah, let's hope for the best. Yeah, it didn't. It gets a little tricky because I commit to my repo not these files. These are like I have the OS idea and then the personalization part. And the personalization part I don't commit. Like just all my pictures and stuff. I don't need those to be on GitHub. They're not secrets or anything. It's just not necessary. But yeah, I have a lot of fun pictures on here. I have all my travel photos. So if someone wants to look at some of my specifics, like, oh, you went to wherever, Jordan or Laos, or and if anyone has any interest in seeing any of these, there's a bunch of places I've been, to be honest. What other things I have in here besides pictures? I have all the videos for these streams included. So let's say the macOS folder. I actually download all these thumbnails from YouTube on the fly. I could pre-cache them, but I don't want to. I don't need to. I mean, if these stop working, then it's very likely the videos themselves won't work because it's all YouTube, basically. So, what am I still selecting this here? Let's get out of elements. For example, let's say that first video then. So I think that I maybe fixed these files so that they have proper dates. Let's try if I say sort by date modified. Yeah, here we go. Sort again, invert it. There we go. So now this is correctly in the right order. So this is one of the last ones I did. Yeah, the make fully. I think there's, what is that? I have 48 in here right now. So I need to add a few more. I don't know if I did. I think this episode I actually added 49, 50, and 51. And then I have to add one more at least. Anyways, these are just links. They're not actual videos. But if you click them, it'll open in my video player and open YouTube player. So you can see this is like the first stream I did, basically. And I look somewhat the same, not quite the same. I'm a year older. Not necessarily a year wiser. That's debatable. Actually, no, I'm just joking. I probably am a year wiser. In some respects and not so in others. You can play MP3s. It plays them in Winamp, of course. Winamp, I also support Winamp skins. So we can, where are the skins? Documents, Winamp skins. We got, this was my favorite one back in the day, SpyAmp Pro. Like so. Got this Nucleolo one. It's kind of a cool one, I thought. Apple looking one. Looks like an Apple thing. Stick with SpyAmp. What else we got here? We got, I keep my notes for the stream notes, like the one we're doing right now. So this was one of the last ones from the 18th. Yeah, this was the last one. You can see this is all the notes for that episode I did, including that video link and all that stuff. We got the Flash files, so it can run Flash, like the old Badger thing. Badger, mushroom. I don't know if most people would know that. It's like 2 decades old now, perhaps. I don't know. DOS bundles. This is the DOS files, like I said. These are also zip files, so I actually can open them in my file explorer too, and you can actually explore the zip contents. And you can see that it would match the other one. Got Duke Nukem, Jazz Jackrabbit as well. Duke Nukem 3D is actually a pretty cool one. Again, these are all shareware. So, share, I feel. That's my logic on it. And as far as the speed, I don't know if necessarily a faster computer is always going to help you with these emulators. There's some intrinsic speed limits kind of built into them. I mean, not really on purpose. Like, it could always run faster, I guess. This is running pretty good anyways. This one runs a lot better than, like, the Windows emulator doesn't run as well. But the DOS one, at least on Chrome, can basically... You could run it... You can basically just play the game like how I played it when I was a kid. And that's actually what... These 4 games that are on here are some of the DOS games I used to play as a kid. I started with DOS before I had a Windows machine. And I used to play DOS games and do all sorts of fun stuff in DOS and program in QBasic and stuff and that kind of thing. Anyway... So this still, we're on my website here. This is stuff you could do on my website. This is not my OS. I'm not sharing my computer with you. I also support opening ISOs as a folder structure. So you can see inside this ISO, or you can boot this full Linux as with the x86 emulator and actually run Linux. And you can actually look at the files in Linux as well. So let's say if we open some Linux that has a GUI, like Damn Small Linux or Tiny Linux, one of those, you could run that, and actually, let's just show you. I'll just try to see. I'm not sure how easy it'll be. Actually, for the Damn Small Linux, I have no idea how to do it. But this allows me to show another feature, is that I also allow mapping of local computer directories into the fake OS. So let's say I map my data list folder here, and just like that, now this folder is actually pointing to my real folder on my actual computer. And it also has no limits then on how big the files can be here. So let's say that Damn Small Linux, we can run that in the emulator. And this is actually running from inside my computer's file system without sharing or dragging anything in file drop. I was able to share an entire folder and then access all that stuff in my emulators and stuff. And all the other programs too. Like, what else can I open in here? I mean, just anything. I can look at the pictures from my old Post-its picture that I had. Or some of my old, I can look at some videos, some sample videos I had. This is an MP4 playing using the video player. I can look at some MVP requirements text document. I have something to play almost everything here. Like this font I don't have a player for. This patch I don't, but I also have open with, so we could open it in Monaco and see that it's just a git patch file. Yeah, I almost have players for all this. I can look inside these zip files if I want. I can look inside it there. Can also run these. So let's say the Earth. Here's that Heroes demo I was looking for earlier too. I'm not sure how performant it's going to be running the x86 Linux emulator and the Windows Heroes emulator, but let's just give it a shot and see. So I'm attempting to run Heroes 2 in an Windows emulator here, and I'm running Linux in an x86 emulator behind it. Again, we're on a website. Nice, it works. So one key thing about it being slow I found is the sound. So I have to disable the sound right away if I'm going to play this. But it's not as playable this game. Some of the Windows games are playable, but they do have a lot of work to do, I would say, in the ability to be able to play Windows games. Yeah, it's actually barely playable, honestly. I think it has something... The audio is a big part of it being slow, so maybe there's like a quick fix they could do there one day. Might even be configuration kind of thing, like I could adjust something perhaps and it would be better. Let me just try to disable the volume here while Linux is booting at the same time. Linux has slowed down a lot. I think usually this DSL thing would have booted by now. So yeah, I can play the game here basically, and we could... Oh, I actually can't full screen this. That's another limitation of it. For the Windows one. The DOS one I can full screen, and I'm actually thinking in the future of being able to scale any of them. Might be a better option. This is another game I used to play as a kid, Heroes 2. Me and my friend Travis used to play this all the time. Okay, so let's close this. I don't know if that Linux thing's ever going to boot. It's taking forever. In the interim, let's just see what other things we got. Actually, no, let's just refresh. This Linux thing's taking forever. That's one thing with the x86 emulator. Like, I'm not saying everything on my site is going to run perfectly. It's not going to be like... Well, I mean, I'm not saying it will run perfectly, but one day I hope it will, you know? I mean, this is always a work in progress, so I'm not in any rush in that way. I think I've demoed most of the basic fancy features, honestly. I mean, there's a lot more the terminal can do. All the copy, paste, drag and drop, all that stuff you'd expect works. There's right-click menus that do a lot of cool stuff, I'd say. Or they do what you'd expect, you know? They do the things you want. You want to download a whole folder, you can download a whole folder. You can add to archive and make a zip file. Yeah, you can make zips. I can open RAR files too. And like I said, ISOs. Okay, I think, yeah, 27 minutes of discussing it. Let's move on to some code. I have 34 commits, but I think some of them we can do pretty quick. I think the icon one, cache one, took me forever. Let's get to it. Allow JS-DOS to run without file. Yeah, that was one of the first things I wanted to do. So that when we open JS-DOS, rather than show nothing, it can show something. Let's do a git apply. I like to do patches because I'm lazy and they're more accurate. So when you do a patch, you basically get the entire differences applied to the changes, assuming that the differences don't interfere with something else that got changed. So now we can kind of look and see what changed. What did I do in this case? So to the add config, I also checked that it's not an empty buffer now. The idea that behind this is when I go to load the bundle, before I was just assuming there was a URL all the time, but now I allow there to be no URL. So first I check here and I say if there's no URL, then the buffer is, or if there's a URL, then read the buffer. Otherwise, we use an empty buffer. And then when I do the JS-DOS config, I check for an empty buffer, and I don't go to the zipping step in that case. I just pass along empty buffer. That's all it is. And that works okay. Same thing here for the state URL. I don't try to read the state if there's no URL, like the previous state, saved state. And then I didn't, and what did I do here? Why does it look like that changed? Okay, I just removed URL from here, right. There can be no URL, basically. Or the URL can be blank now. And then for title, I also, rather than tweaking conditional for title, I just decided internally to tweak it and make the same logic that if you say append file to title, but there's no URL, don't do like space dash space nothing. Just don't do anything and leave it blank. That was something I wasn't checking for before, but I think it's reasonable to check for it. And then in the zip here, when it goes to zip, if it's not an empty buffer, what is this buffer? Yeah, it just makes sure to check. I think this ended up being a safeguard in the end, that if for some reason it's an empty buffer, don't try to unzip the original. Just make a new one. So that was all there was to that. And if we see now, I'm just getting used to these hotkeys. We refresh, close this. Now when I open JS-DOS, boom, it opens in like a DOS window right away. And you just got a like fresh, empty DOS, which is nice. That's something I used to have in the old one. And for some reason, I didn't think to add it now until like, basically until just recently. And I don't know why I was lacking it, to be honest. It's kind of silly. But here's our first commit of the day. Allow JS-DOS to run without file. I see your recommendations too about Sonic 2, Abrar. It seems like you're a big Sonic fan. Dustin code a new app Stadia. Maybe one day. You know, Microsoft's got a pretty good offering for Stadia now. I've just started playing their Xbox stuff again. It used to be you had to install all the games, but now you can just stream them. And I was like, nice. That's handy. Who else is doing it? I think Sony has one like that too now. Load v86 without URL. Right. I'm doing the same thing to v86 that I just did JS-DOS. To be able to allow turning it on. And if you don't pass in a URL, you don't pass in a URL. Because before it was like kind of confusing actually. It just would show nothing. Like it would just show a black box. And how would the user know to drag on something was a concern I had. So we'll just apply this one here. I'm loving this keyboard. It's very smooth. It's the Corsair K100. Very, very colorful keyboard. Very fancy. I should probably do a review on it. Now that I'm taking a break from these streams, I'm hoping to do more things like that. Reviews, shorter videos where I demo the app and stuff and some of the things it can do. So the changes are basically identical to the other one. Just using an empty buffer. And that's it, really. Just use an empty buffer, and let's demo it here. Simple, another simple one. What's it complaining about here? Did I lose dev? Oh, I must have, what? I guess I accidentally killed the terminal that had the dev environment on it. Let me just start it up again real quick. There we go. So again, emulators. Now we go v86. There we go. So it's not very useful, this, to users, but at least you're like, oh, okay, I tried to boot some OS. I need an ISO. And then I guess you could just go in here if you wanted, disk images, and you could drag one in. And it gives an error. In production, this actually won't happen because this is a dev visual. So you would see the error in the console. But I'm not sure if this is a v86 issue. I've had this happen sometimes where it says about the timer. But it'll keep going. But it gives this console log that Next.js decides to throw in your face when you're in dev mode. Oh, and else, yeah, I complained about this too. Otherwise, it worked fine. So the user wouldn't notice that, other than if they had the console open, I guess they would. I'm not a fan of it. I want to fix it eventually. And it feels like a lot slower. I don't know if that's related to that error. Anyways, it booted. So that it did what I wanted in the end. Refresh. Let's commit that. Easy peasy. 2 down. In no time at all. I just realized there's like quite the stream delay. I don't know what that is all about. Maybe I just have more stream delay set up now than I used to. But if I actually look at the live, it's like 10 or 20 seconds visually behind. I mean, I guess it makes no difference. But it's trippy when I'm looking at it. It's like in the past. What's next? Ruffle placeholder, right? Same idea, but the Ruffle one was a lot easier. I just added some placeholder CSS right in this dead center that says drop an SWF or SPL file. That's what the Flash emulator called Ruffle supports, is those 2 file types that basically play old Flash files, which was a great resource back in the day of random crap. But sometimes they had some good stuff in there, like Badger, 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 or the strong bad stuff. That was a good one, the strong bad stuff, if you guys remember that. Probably I'll do a video demoing it when I do Flash. I'll do a Flash video. My website plays Flash or something. I need to think of a way to not market. I don't care if people watch it, but I want to give people a reason to be interested in it, you know? That's all it is. I mean, I don't know if that is marketing or not. That's the more honest mentality of marketing, to just want people to be interested and not, I don't care about the profit or nothing. What profit, in fact? None. Should have had this package as it's in config. What does that mean? Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not even going to waste my time doing this because Stylant is like all whack right now. I have a note to try to fix it, but Stylant's being stubborn as heck right now. So let's just not worry about that. Monaco, show status bar when possible. Yes, this is something I noticed that the Monaco editor, when I opened it, did not show me the lines for some silly reason. And that some silly reason is whatever it is that I fixed that we're about to see. Because I'm not even completely sure myself what I just did. What did I do to fix this? Ah, yes, so I default show. So the line calc doesn't trigger when there was no file, but I can default say that Monaco opens a new thing with a line. And you start at the first column, first line. And that means there starts with one line, basically. And then what was the logic here I did? Oh, basically to only show this stuff once the editor loads. So don't show line 1 when there is no line, but once the editor loads, there's going to be a line. That's all I did. I just wrapped it in that. And we don't need this line count thing anymore. There's always going to be a line if the editor loads, basically. There's no way to delete the last line, I noticed. Let's check it out. Let's close this. Click that. We open Monaco, and there we go. Line 1, col 1. And if I press enter, now we're on line 2, and there's 2 lines. So that looks better. Gotta get used to using these buttons. Let's commit that. And jump back to this. Nice. Yeah, once I get used to the buttons, it's easier to... It's like having the Stream Deck. It's even the same software, because this is a Corsair keyboard, and Corsair actually owns Elgato, I realized, who makes the Stream Deck. What next? Fix Monaco parsers. Oh yeah, they were broken? Yeah, I think the SAS one wasn't working for SCSS. It was supposed to be the language and not post CSS. And Markdown was supposed to just be called Markdown for the language. So some of my auto parsers there that I was using to do prettier formatting with prettier JS, that was why it wasn't working, basically. I think that we ran into that last episode, in fact, where I tried to press it on something and it didn't work. Don't really recall a good demo for this, but this was just realphabetization and switching this to be Markdown instead of this MDX. I realized was wrong. So this makes more sense. This just fixes the parsers. One of those things not even worth demoing, probably. I explained it anyways. What next? Keyboard shortcuts. Oh yeah, this is a cool one. This is kind of a work in progress. But the idea is, I mean, this is something in Windows I use a lot too, is just pressing the keyboard. You know, like you're in the File Explorer and you want to go down a few files. You can like scroll and then click it, or you could just go down and down with the down arrow. And if you want to delete it, you just press delete. You know, you want to copy is Control C, paste is Control V. So I've partially added that when a file entry is selected. I got another one. He's saying, add Super Mario 64. Yes, I do know that there's a website. Thank you, Amber. I do know that that's possible, but I just keep getting scared with the copyrights. You know, I'm a scaredy cat, perhaps, when it comes to getting takedown notices from Nintendo when all I'm trying to do is make a personal website. So that's one of the fears I have. One of my many fears. I think this required a lot of case switches, and I got tired of this rule here where it says prefer switch. I do prefer switch when switch makes sense, but sometimes, you know, I just want to else if else. And I don't want Unicorn telling me which is better because I think it depends. So I got rid of that rule. I made a hook here called use keyboard shortcuts. Here's the things it depended on. And it makes this keyboard shortcut thing that you just drop on here as a key down handler. Now, I actually do support the keys I care about, but the reason I call it partial is because I don't support pressing the keys if you're just in the folder and you're not picking an item. So you have to pick an item so that your key down is triggered. I haven't figured out properly how to trigger a key down on just a folder. Should be easy, honestly. I have I think I have a note to do it. Let me add it to my next stream anyways if I don't have a note. Keyboard handling on folders. Keyboard bindings, let's say. Keyboard bindings. So this is just for file entries. Anyways, the hook is where it's at. Let's get to the hook. What did I change in double click? Oh, we'll get to why I changed that. So let's open the hook here and make some room to see it. The hook is kind of big. Here's a key shortcut I've learned recently. Control K0. This kind of minimizes everything. And then we can make things bigger partially, one thing at a time, to kind of not overwhelm ourselves here. So if we see here, the code looks a lot more manageable. This is just a type. This type stuff doesn't matter too much. TypeScript stuff. So we talked about the dependencies that are coming in. So we need the file system to be able to do a few different commands. Here's the basic handler. So when you selected a file entry and you click a key, it's going to go to this key handler. It's going to prevent default and stop propagation. It's not going to go down and propagate. I think that's okay. Yeah, because before I had no key binding, so this is fine. I think. Right. I think that a condition to that being fine is the fact that when it's renaming, when we're in rename mode, I don't want any key handler. I want you to be able to type the name. But then as soon as you're off, I switch back to having a key handler here, which we'll continue to look through. It only has a few cases. So it has some cases when control is held. For F2, that's like rename. So I set renaming. I love pressing F2 to rename. Delete is just delete. So delete here, I do it for all the entries that are focused. So for each entry that's selected, we make a path, and then we delete it. Abra is saying, there's a Super Mario 64 in the emulator websites. Yeah, I know about the app. I guess what I could do, I could consider making one of those bookmarks, like the Diablo one. Although I think the Super Mario one's a little shady, because I think Nintendo is not happy about that. Versus the Diablo one, where it's a shareware version. There's no shareware Super Mario 64. That's a concern I have. Anyways, here's how delete works. So it checks if it's a directory, and if it is, it does remove. Otherwise, it does unlink. And then it updates the files to reflect that change. After it's done all of them, then it makes sure that none of them are... Why does it do blur? I guess blur is just kind of to reset the idea of focused, because these items just magically kind of disappeared. So that's fair. Because I was looking at the focused entries, and once all the focused entries are deleted, blur will just like make sure there are no focused entries anymore. Next one is... What is this? Else if target is a button. What is this scenario here? Why wouldn't target be a button? I think that I added this. I think it's just a general else, but I added this here because I actually wanted to do stuff with target. Or no, target is the button. And I wanted to check because these cases I actually want to trigger. I care about the button. So in the case of enter, I dispatch an event to the button of a double click event. So basically like the user clicking twice, and I allow it to bubble. And that's why I changed the double click handler to also support the idea of, it also now has a double click handler here that only gets triggered for the special double click event that doesn't get triggered by the mouse. And the way that I did that is when it's not a mouse event, when it's a key event, on click will still trigger, actually, believe it or not, for pressing enter. But it will have client X0 and client Y0 versus a mouse event will always have a client X and Y. I guess not if it was right at the top left, but I don't... That's a good point. I guess there could be a scenario where if someone dragged something clickable on my site right to the top, and if you clicked right at 00 on 1, wonder what would happen. Let's not worry about that edge case for now until someone reports it. But basically, I just added... I treat the double click event like a single click, in that I do the running of the handler. So there's just an extension to double click. So that's if you press enter. And if you press an arrow button, I figure out where the position of the element is. And then what do I do? If it's move up or move down, I find the element at, oh yeah. Interesting. So I look at the button. I look at its X and its Y and its height and its width. And I say, based on that X, Y, give me double the height. If it's up, I want to decrease the height by 1, and then tell me what that element is. If it's down, I want to double the height. So the height of the button plus another height, tell me what that element is. So I get that element in either case. So if it's up or down, the moved element is based on that. And if it's not up or down, then it's going to be a left or right scenario. So I check if it was left, then we subtract 1 width, because the X and Y starts at the top left. So if it's left, we only need to go 1 more width back. But if it's right, we need to go the width of the button plus another width to get to the right element. So the idea here is just to be able to navigate with up and down and left and right arrows without having to keep any wonky referencing. This is kind of a weird way to do it, but it worked out in the end. And then what do? And then I click it. So I find the element, and then I click its button, basically, just once, just to focus it. So that's the same as like up-down kind of thing. And then what do I do in the control case scenarios? Let's see. So if it's control, I check the key that's pressed. If it's control A, we select all the entries. We focus them all. If it's control C, we set the focused ones to copied, X for cut, and V for paste. So basically, we've added keyboard controls, but only if you select the items. So let's try it here. So now I can do up, up, up. So you see that's working, up and down. If I press enter, it opens there. We can do here, up, down, left, right. So you can see now we can kind of navigate here, and gives a little bit more of that Windows experience. You open the icons folder. And we can also, let's say we just take these 2 files here and we press delete. And we get some kind of error. What happened? Oh, because I tried deleting non-empty directories. And my delete directory command is not recursive. Touché. Perhaps that should have worked. I don't know. I feel like yes. So let's go to our code here and make a note of that for another fix. Delete via keyboard / right click / context menu / context should delete non-empty directories. I wonder if right click would have worked. Ders, let's say, because I'm lazy. Let's do another test here and see if right click would have worked. I've completely frozen it, by the way, with that. But let's try again. Where was it? It was this which folder was it? Oh, right. This is there's a fix I need to apply. Maybe I'll apply the fix now, but I basically broke double click. So now I have to press enter at the moment. Let's try this again with right click though. Right click, delete. Okay, so right click delete works. So it's actually just the keyboard delete that I'm doing some weird way. Delete via keyboard should delete non-empty directories. Okay, I'll follow up with that. Yeah, that'll be somewhere in here, I guess. The way I'm doing deleting here. Unlink. No, rmdir. Do I have the ability to do some kind of overriding there? Let's not worry about it for now. I think I have some command for doing a recursive deletion, but I've made a note for it for now. I don't want to play around with that because I actually don't 100% know. Let's apply whatever this fix is too. Do I have the fix here? Yeah, fix double click. I noticed pretty quickly I broke that. Okay, we'll apply that patch. I don't want to mistype anything. Oops, except I just mistyped the URL, so I'm not going to trust myself to type the patch correctly. We'll just apply that as well. That's the easiest way to do it, in my opinion, which is the only one that seems to matter on this stream. So now, presumably that's fixed. What was the fix anyways? Let's double check it's fixed first. Refresh. Yeah, now double click works. So how did I fix double click? Right, before it was doing this X or Y thing. Now, yeah, there's still an issue here where I consider a mouse event of 0, 0. You basically can't double click on 0, 0 now is the way I've done it here. Although it's only in this scenario. So you could double click on 0, 0, but not if it's a double click event, which I think is okay. The issue with this double click of, well, does this cause any issues? I'm not sure about the exact logic as to why that was going to be an issue. I think double click was getting triggered unexpectedly. Anyways, this seems to work. So let's not worry about it. That was the basics of what I needed to do to fix it though. So this is keyboard shortcuts on entries only right now. Good note there. Jump back to the code. Keyboard shortcuts on entries only. That goes here. Just did the Monaco parser thing. And did we looked at all the changes? Yes. So we're ready to commit, I'd say, at this point. What's next? So I just did these two together. The next one up is the JS-DOS support EXEs. Right. This was another one I just thought was nice. Because I had for box wine the ability to run the Windows, just a straight up EXE you can kind of click it. I wanted to have the same option for the JS-DOS ones. So I think all I had to do here was add the extension. I don't even remember what I ended up doing in the end. It's probably more than one thing. Let's see here. In extensions, yeah, I just had to add EXE as JS-DOS. But in JS-DOS, I also... Right, if it's an EXE, I need to zip it up. Because JS-DOS only supports these zip files. Or compressed files. So if it is an EXE, I need to detect that in JS-DOS and turn it into a zip. Boxed wine, I think, is the same story. So I just do that because I have my own zipping utility that I use. Check based on lowercase. Yes, this is where I fixed that capital zip thing from the start of this episode. It's funny that I run into this bug. This bug existed for a really long time. And I actually hadn't ran into it. And now just today, right before I fix it, right before I apply the fix that I had it happen again organically, which is kind of funny. Wait a minute. This is a huge change. What did I check based on lowercase? Oh, okay. I guess there was a lot of places I wasn't doing it properly. Let's review. But yeah, I think that was the case. Yeah, so pretty much any time I was doing extension name, that would just give you the string. So if it was capitalized, I wasn't doing a right compare because if this had been .html in capitals, it wouldn't have worked. So yes to that one. Same story here for detect language. When it goes into detect language, it's based on this custom extension languages, and those are lowercase. So this should have also been always lowercase, and in some scenarios, again, it was not. In almost all of my testing, I never thought to try that. So it's kind of funny. Here's another one. There's so many here. Basically, these are all correct. There's very few cases where the extension name command, I did not want it to be like that. Unless it was using it to remake another name, but whenever it was doing comparisons, basically. All of these are scenarios where it's doing comparisons to real, literal strings. And in all cases where I did comparisons, I always assumed that it would be a lowercase file name. So now I just kind of went through all the extension name ones and just did the same thing. Yeah, just added that. It's a little repetitive, but at the same time, it's a reminder that the extension might not come in lowercase. I could even turn this into one command, perhaps in the future. There's a lot of that refactoring I'd like to do. Not that I've been messy with the code necessarily, but there's things where, I mean, my code's evolved as I've been writing it. So there's improvements that I could make. And that's where I hope to get back to it with refactoring and doing some more like deep scan utilities where they find a lot of that stuff, or at least find places where it's like, this is repetitive, or you could refactor this. And those tools can be pretty useful, I've found. Another one committed. Next here, fix folder move to read overlay. What the heck's that mean? This is something I fixed internally in the browser fs file system lib. Actually, I shouldn't download a patch. Let me just download this file. This is just a file. I can just straight up save this again. There's no source thing in here at the bottom, is there? Oh, there is. That's sloppy of me. Let's fix that too. I think when do I get rid of that? Did I not notice that I added that? Okay, well, let's fix that. I hate when they have that little source map thing at the bottom that tries to load. Because I don't need it, and it just creates an additional network request if you happen to be in the console. Which I guess is... Should we expect that the user is in the console? Probably not, but for my website, who knows? I'm just replacing the file right now in the background secretly. So I've replaced it. Let's double check. What was this fix again? What was this about? It was about the fix folder move to read overlay. Some kind of fix, you know. This is one of those The browser FS lib needed quite a few little tweaks, and they're almost hard to quantify because it's like I'm not going to explain all the work I had to do to learn this library that I didn't want to fix in the first place. I wanted to work exactly perfect, so I don't want to clutter you guys down with some library where I'm just going in and like I'm just gonna fix this and just walk away. So this isn't my code necessarily, but my code fixed some bug that I don't even remember in this case. So we're not gonna demo it. But the file system in general, I'm always kind of bolstering it because browser FS is a cool concept, but it hasn't in a lot of cases been used in this way. So I've had opportunities to run into a few issues that with the overlay FS and with the mounted FS where there were some subtle tweaks that could be done. Although maybe they didn't need to be done and I just configured it wrong. Who knows? Okay, we just did these. Move boxed wine into emulators. Yes, I said I wanted to do that. Let's just do that ourselves. So we don't, this patch is simple, or this change is simple enough. Public users, and right now it's in the start menu under just straight up here. We're just going to move it to, oh, you can't see it from here. I'm moving it from here to here. Yes, move. There we go. And I have to rebuild the file system in this case to pick up that change in the JSON stuff. There we go. Next, add 4 more streams. Right, this is another just simple one. These are just 4 streams I did, and I've added them. We could even add this one, perhaps. Maybe it's, yeah, why not? Let's use this as a patch because this is quicker for 4 files. And then we'll also show you the process of making a shortcut. So we can make this one. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the video too. This will be a little bit meta here, maybe. I don't know. Is there like a button to say that I'm streaming right now? All right, I got a new subscriber. Thank you, Brett. I don't want to see Brett's stuff. I wanted to go to my video that's happening right now. Whoa, don't play my video. That would be too Inception-y. I just wanted to copy this piece. That's all I wanted. Because I think I made a slightly different note for a change. Although, to be honest, I think the summary is already so small. What do I put in here? Oh, yeah, it's like ... Let's just leave it as that. So I didn't need to go back into this. I do need to go to the code. So we have these 4 here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one more. In videos, make my OS. Yeah, they're alphabetically all over the place. I'm just going to open the folder here in my local explorer. I'm going to copy it. I actually do need the title. What did I title this thing? I don't even remember. Oh, again, it's going to start autoplaying? No. Oh, so I'm not going to copy these emojis that were part of my file title. Although I guess I could. Why not? Okay, I copied the emojis. Let's see if they stick here. Okay, well, they work. These work everywhere. So let's see if these will work as a file name. I'm concerned they won't. Ugh, Windows isn't even being generous with allowing me to rename it. Here we go. Okay, so let me drag it on here. So there's the file, 1 year of live coding my OS in the browser. That's the stream happening right now. The link to it. Oh, that's in my stream notes. There's the link right here. Like so. That's it. That's all that has to change there, honestly. That'll do it. Save that. So now we have 5 of them. I think. Oh, wait, I made it on my desktop first before I copied it over. Paste that one too. There we go. So we got all 52 weeks of the stream. And I'll just say added 5 streams. I'm going to do another build FS because the file system changed once again. And then we're going to take a peek at this. Let's actually open the stream that's happening right now in my app. So videos, make an OS. You'll see now that there's 53 in this folder. Oh, that's funny. Oh, it doesn't have a thumbnail yet for this one, which creates that and actually caused an error here. So the way my thumbnail code works, I guess it doesn't work with videos that haven't fully been published yet. But it does give a decent, that thumbnail's okay. And the emoji's stuck. So let's double click it and see what happens. We try to open it. There we go. Yeah, that's the stream of me doing the video. I'm pausing it right now so we don't get some kind of weird echo or something. But this is what's happening right now. Kind of cool. All right. Added 5 streams. Nice. An easier way to keep up to date. Now I don't have to go in next week or something and sneak in another video. Jump back to the next big thing. The icon cache. Do I just do it all at once? Stable address bar, fixed cache, flicker. Maybe we'll do this and this at the same time, and then we'll discuss it. Let's do that. Because I think these are pretty much related. Yeah, this is related, and it kind of changes the whole basis of what I did. This is not. I don't think any of this other stuff is. No, this other stuff is just follow-up stuff, and we're going to be able to get through it pretty quick, I think. So let's get to the icon cache, because that one takes a little bit of time to explain. I think I still have the files, but they're just not showing. If you remember at the start of the stream how it showed like it was a 7 megabyte file. I think I've made the thumbnails already. Let me just double check. Icons, cache. Yeah, I do have the cache. It's a lot of them, actually. 498 files. It was, how big was it? So let's say before I had the cache, if someone were to go through my pictures, the 498 pictures, it would have been 440 megabytes. Now they could look at every single picture. They could have them all open without not double clicking, but the icons, and now it would only be 1.8 megabytes. So pretty big difference. Pretty big difference to my bandwidth bill. Not that I tend to, well, who knows? Who knows how popular it'll get. Okay, so I've downloaded the patches, AD and EDC. Let's apply the first one here. Git apply, what was the first one? The first one was the AD one. That's the base one. And then let's apply the follow-up patch just to tweak those files. Oh my, what happened here? Oh, that is not the right file, I think. Yes, good. Happy to say that's not the correct patch, because otherwise I would have been disappointed trying to apply things manually. I'm so done with applying the code manually during live streams. It's just too tedious. There we go. So we've applied the 2 patches to the icon cache, and now we can discuss the icon cache as a whole, which is one of the last things I had to do. You see these yellow notes here? That's basically it. One of them is the custom session, which basically just means I want to tweak a few resize windows. The other one is just the logic of how windows open. And then I'm basically done. So that's what I'm talking about for my release on this coming Sunday. Not tomorrow, but like 8 days from now. Let's look at the index. Close this other stuff. Look at the icon changes, sorry. So one of the first basic ones, some of these are like fixes, but it's related, isn't it? Actually, this is not related in any way. This has to do with the My PC icon. In regards to that, the PC icon here was supposed to load, but once I added this, the root path itself is a map. So this was saying true, and then it was becoming the mounted icon, which is not what I wanted. So I said it has to have a directory name, because there's no directory name, then it shows the PC icon. That's what I want. But this is not related to icon improvements, so let's stage this one separately and commit this one separately as fix my PC icon in File Explorer. And how am I going to do that in the clipboard here? That'll be this one. This will be this one here. Let me get this back in our clipboard. So let's push this commit, because that actually was unrelated. I'm not sure how that snuck in there, but we were able to classify it and make it a legit commit of its own, which is nice. Okay, put this icon cache stuff back, and let's review this again. This is also unrelated. Actually, no, this is a two-parter. This is partially related, because when the icon's already cached, I don't need to run the get icon command, which triggers this kind of thing. The get icon command is like the follow-up. It's like, show me the video icon, and then you can run this to do the dynamic icon. But what I had was, I had the sub icon being set inside when you get it. So once it was cached, it was no longer showing the little mini icon that shows at the bottom right. So let's say for a video, the video will show the picture frame and then a little mini VLC icon. And before that, it shows the big VLC icon, and then dynamically it loads and you get the mini one. So all I did here is I moved it so that this happens before. And now one issue with this is that the sub icon and the icon are the same. So what I do is I also added a little logic here when the file entry is loading to say that if the sub icon, where do I have it here? Here, is it here? I'm trying to find where it is that I have it, just to try to clarify that little modification before we get into these other tweaks. Yeah, here it is, I think, in the sub icons. I think it's when I think it's to the filter command itself. Yeah, the sub icon list, I also say the sub icon can't be the same as the icon. So we wouldn't want a scenario where the icon and the little mini icon are exactly the same thing. So that was another little piece I added so that we could do the sub icon before we ran the get icon. But it's kind of intrinsically connected with a lot of what's going on in this file, so I'll let this all be one commit. Let's look at the simple files before we get into the big one. This is just some constants for paths. I tweaked it a little bit. So I made system icons. I made that more dynamic now. Now there's things called, there's two icon paths basically. There's the main icon path and there's the user icon path. And this already kind of existed, this concept, and I've just kind of made some folders here. So the icon cache exists in the user folder now, whereas the icon path is for all the base icons that are in the system folder. So that made more sense because the user is the one that has like all the pictures that I cared to have cached. So that's where I've also put the cache. So that's another thing that doesn't need to be in the repo. So that's the first basic piece. Let's commit that, or let's stage that. We'll also stage this sub icon thing I was discussing. The file info tweak. Yes, I wanted to be able to set just the icon. Before there was no real mechanism for that. It would just, you would have to run this entire function that would update the entire file info entry. But now I export set info so that I can run the dispatch command and say, I want the old info, but with this icon. That wasn't something that was being exported before. Before it was just the info being exported. That's a simple one there. The icon itself, I needed a reference to. I needed a forwarded reference, sorry. So when an icon is made now, an icon object, I can say, for the file entry icons, I can say, use this ref. So forward that ref to the actual image object here. That was because I need to know the exact physical object, because one cool thing with the element is you can take a really big picture and put it at a small size, and then with a tool like HTML to image, it can actually take that small one and make it a canvas and then turn that into a PNG. So you've essentially turned a big image into a small image via the fact that you just displayed it small and then extracted that. That's the idea of what I've done for the icon cache. So now we get to the meat of it here. This is just import stuff. So this is a tricky piece. This kind of is also related to focusing. I did the same kind of thing where I've almost got a global idea that's outside of React state. Basically, this is being declared globally. So even though each one of these file entries is unique, they're all referencing the same global cache queue. The reason why I did this is because if you go to a folder that had a bunch of icons, all of a sudden, all at once, all the icons would try to make the icon cache folder and to write themselves. And it was just a little bit too much of a flood. And it wasn't working, basically. In some cases, browser FS just got out of control. So the idea of the cache queue would be that every time there's an opportunity to cache a new icon, it would get pushed into the queue. And then after it's pushed into the queue, I check and say, is there only one thing in the queue? If there's only one thing in the queue, then I'm not sure if this logic's perfect, by the way. This is just my idea of how I'm doing the queue. But if there's only one thing in the queue, then run that. And then what I have is each cache queue entry will also run whatever else is in the queue. So it's almost like there has to be something to kind of boot it in to initialize it. But then once you're in that state, it'll run itself. Now I have a concern, I guess, that it could end up running the last one twice or something like that. But it's not a big deal in this case because it could run twice and be okay. But I'm not sure if there is some kind of race condition scenario where is there only one thing in the queue could end up running something that also was going to be ran by something else. That's hard to say. Anyways, I've confused you and myself enough. before we get into this massive one, let's just see what else I do here. Basically, I just moved this up to here. This was before it would only get the dynamic icon in certain conditions. Now I basically run update icon whenever these conditions change, which is also pretty minor. And at some point there's like a blocker here where it won't remake it anymore. Now I thought about this logic a lot. I'm not sure if it makes perfect sense, but this is how I got the caching to work without it being all jank, basically. Down here, what did I change? Not too much. I needed to make the sub icon name unique. I don't think it necessarily needs to be, but for some reason it's a possibility that it might not be, so I add sub icon here. I think now with my other logic where I filter them out, I think it doesn't matter, but it's better safe than sorry. Although, could this occur anymore? Maybe this couldn't. Let's put this back. I feel like this couldn't happen anymore. The issue with this would have been, again, it would have been that sub icon and icon being the same. Then they would have had the same key. Let's put this back to how it was before, because now we filter this so that that can't occur. This, I think, was relevant. What was this about? This was just the fact that I also needed to pass image ref and moving, but only in the scenario where it's the main icon, not the sub icon. I don't want the sub icon to have an effect. Only when the icon is the main, when the entry icon that we're looping through right now is also the icon, which is the main icon, then in that case, I want you to also attach an image ref and the moving thing to that icon. That's the basics of that. And now let's look at this beast. So this is the update icon command. This part of the condition was already happening, that it only tries to get the icon if the file manager is done loading. This is new. This is a new little ref that I've got that will set as true when the icon's been cached. So once the icon's been cached, it doesn't refresh it anymore. It's like, okay, I've got it. Don't change. However you are is fine. Just don't worry about it. What's the next scenario here? I think I need to open this normal so I can shrink these pieces here at first. Yeah, let's start small with this thing. So I told you that one condition there. We check if it's cached. So if it's not cached, I'm going to do a quick sip here. I got a message here from Katama Somya. Sir, there are errors while running the code you gave in GitHub. Can you please show how to run the code? That actually is like one of my things I'm going to be doing, is writing. When I do this release party, I'm going to go through all that. I'm going to have a README. I'm going to have credits. I'm going to have my feature list. That's going to be what's left of these post-its plus some other stuff. So I do intend to get to that. I think the error you're probably having might be the build fs. It's the fact that you need to run yarn build colon fs. I don't mention that in any docs, but if you don't have a file system, it's going to complain. But I think once you do that, I think that's the only real step. I mean, you need to run yarn to get the dependencies, and then you need to run yarn space build colon fs. Let me make a note of that. Please try. Oops. All right, whatever. Yarn, then yarn. It's silly that I'm saying it, but I guess I'm posting it here for posterity. Anyways, those are the two commands. I just wrote them in our chat. But long story short, the release party on Sunday, we're gonna iron out that stuff because I'm gonna release it to the wild. The repo is gonna work. It's gonna be more clear, and my website's gonna be an example that you can check out as well. Thank you for checking it out, Katam. Let's get to what this logic is here. So let's say it's not cached. We're gonna go in here. What are our scenarios? If it's a blob, the only scenario where it's gonna be a blob is either it's been dynamically loaded or it's been the cache loaded. Got a message here from Katam saying, okay, sir, yes. So yeah, thank you. So try that out, and yeah, if it doesn't work, then please bear with me because I am the last week is the week that I've kind of saved for documentation and that kind of thing. But Sunday, come around Sunday, I am going to be doing the release party, and hopefully we're going to iron out these things if it doesn't end up working for you yet. And you can always throw a comment later, and I can dig into it more. If you do want to throw a comment later, please be clear as to what the error is, because it'll help me out a lot. But for now, I wouldn't worry about it too much because it's not unexpected that there might be some errors. I'm ironing that out still. So let's say it's not a blob yet. It's the generic one. Let's say you drag the video file on, you get the video icon. We have a get icon function. That means we can get a dynamic version of it. Let's try it. So we get first we do the cached path here, and we check if there's already a cached icon. So that could be a scenario after it's been cached on your next load, where it loads the generic, we have a get function, but was it cached before? We don't know yet. So we check, and if it exists, then we set this to true so that it's not going to come back in again because of this condition. We get the data of the cached icon, and then we do that set info that we now have access to where we take info, but we change the icon. Now, if it doesn't exist, and the dynamic one, the get icon command hasn't been ran yet, then we say, okay, we're going to run it, and then we run it. And now what get icon does, it basically is the same thing as set info in that it's going to change the icon. So that's going to re-trigger update icon again. And then when update icon triggers again, it's going to say it's not cached yet. It's dynamically loaded now, but it's not cached. It is we have a blob now because it's the dynamic changing of the icon turns it into a blob URL basically. So now when we come in here, now we say, okay, it's cached. And we kind of preemptively say this just so we don't have any secondary race conditions. Basically, the first thing I do when I go into the condition is I say, okay, it's cached. Nobody else, if for some reason this triggers again before all this stuff is done, stop. And that's why I decided to use refs as well, because I'm actually starting to get fond of using refs in that they don't re-trigger stuff. So it's like if something else re-triggers this, it'll check this, and this ref never gets stale and it'll always go to the same object and then current. So I like ref for that use case. Anyways, again, we build the path. The reason I don't have, this is actually the same line as is up here, but I don't have it external because there's a lot of conditions where this would never have to run. I mean, if there's no get icon function, then it's never going to cache anything because it's never going to get a dynamic icon. So here's some conditions where we don't cache it. If it's already an .ico file, I'm just going to let it show the .ico file rather than make a cached version of that literally will probably be a bigger file than the .ico file. I also don't make icons of the icon files, so anything in the icon path or in the user icon folder, I don't make icons of that. I don't, because that's repetitive, honestly. And again, I check that it doesn't exist here. Yeah, here we wouldn't know necessarily if it already exists. So if it already did exist, then it wouldn't loop. But I don't think that would likely happen. If it already existed, it probably would have loaded. But let's say perhaps it could happen. Yeah, I guess in theory I don't have to check for this, but let's leave that alone. And then I just make sure that we actually have the element and it's an image of the icon. And now what I do here, I do a little bit of clever thing. So there's a caching function, but depending on if it's a really big image, it might not have loaded yet. So what I do is I go to the image, and images actually have this thing called complete Boolean. So the Boolean complete hasn't been flipped yet. Or let's say if it has been flipped, okay, let's cache the icon. But if it hasn't been flipped, then I do the caching command on load of the icon finishing. That was something I noticed that was causing me sometimes empty icons, is that they weren't done loading and it was already trying to cache it. And then it would just make a PNG of basically an empty, transparent photo. So now let's just see how cache works. So for cache, we once again have to check this because this is the image might have disappeared by the time this runs. Not likely, but not impossible. We get the HTML to image library. We lazy load it in. We create the icon based on that image. We just generate a PNG, and it's going to be the small version now. Even if it was a big image that's been intrinsically shrunk, or not, I don't think intrinsic's the right word, but it's been shrunk by the browser, by Chrome, by CSS, whatever it is. You hover over the URL, you see it has an intrinsic size that's larger, but the HTML to image can make the small version of that. And now we do that cache queue thing I was talking about. So we push it into the cache queue, and then we check if the cache queue length is 1, and if it is, then we run the first thing. Now, if it's not 1, how do we start that? The way we do is that every cache queue item also runs another cache queue. So what it does here is it creates the cache path and makes sure that all the folders exist. It creates recursively all the folders just in case. Then it writes the file to the icon folder, to the path. Here's the buffer. So for the PNG, I actually have to do this wonkiness to write it the way I wanted to for some reason. I'm not sure why. But this is what was necessary. Basically, I had to take it in as a... Oh, you know why? Because HTML to image doesn't create a PNG file. It creates a PNG data URL. That's why. And I don't know a way around that. Maybe there is a way around that. It could be easy. If there's a way around that, I wouldn't need to do this. Let's take a quick peek at that. I never really thought about that last time. I just solved it without thinking why I needed to. HTML to image to PNG. What were those options? It said there were some options here. Where were they? Options. There's a filter option. I wonder if there's one like no data URL. I don't want a URL. I want the thing. Okay, maybe that's just what happens. A return promise fulfilled with corresponding data URL. I think the thing is that it always converts it to a canvas, and then the canvas just has a convenient toData URL. So they're just like, hey, I'm just gonna give you a data URL. Okay, I can work with that. So I already did work with that. I had to replace this. I had to remove that piece, and then I had to say buffer from a base 64 string. That would create what I could make a PNG. Another note about that is that I don't make these PNGs. So I actually have a file name that appends .cache. And the reason for that is that if someone goes into the cache folder, I actually don't want to show icons. I'd rather just like, we don't need some inception where it starts caching the cache or anything like that. And I don't even think you need to show those icons. Like, that's just a waste of a download of the file. So I'd rather, if I name it .cache, then my thing doesn't try to make a picture of it. And we just get into some kind of inception of cache pictures. So that's about it. Yeah, the cache queue writes the file, updates the folder to reflect it. This shift command removes the element that ran, basically, whatever it happens to be. I can't remember what shift does. The first element, right? Because I do the 0th. So I remove the first one, and then I try to run the first one. And I have this optional chaining, so that if there is no first one, it's okay, it's safe. And that's it. That's icon cache. Whew, that was a lot of words. So I've already built the icon cache. So it's already, as you saw, there was some logic there to pre-check. So now if we go into that wedding folder again, pictures, wedding, you see I feel like it was faster, first of all. And then if you actually look at one of these images, now when we hover over it, we see it's actually 48 by 48. So much smaller. And we can see this icon cache here, users, public, icons. What? Oh, right, I deleted those. I fake deleted those folders. Let's just clear the whole session here. Now if I go back in, they'll be there because they actually really are there. Where is it here? Users, public, icons, cache, users. This is another thing I decided. For a long time, I was thinking, oh, I'll have some kind of key value thing in the session where I say this path goes to this cache. And in the end, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to recreate the entire directory structure in the cache folder because that's easier, actually. So once you're in cache, you have the whole directory structure again. Users, public, pictures, wedding, and then you see I have the cache files in here. So when you look at the cache files, it's only 34 kilobytes of those icons. But when you go to the picture folder and you go to wedding and you select all of those, you'll see that the information says it's 7 megabytes. And if I pick one of these, let's say, which is a nice one? This one here is nice. Well, they're all nice. And then now you see that one, that's clearly not a 48 pixel picture. So it opens the real picture, the source picture. And you can zoom in and see my beautiful wife and myself and our wedding. And yeah, it's another cool thing I can share and people can see. And like I said, it's bandwidth reasonable because it's showing cached little thumbnails. So it lets people kind of fly through the images more fast too. In general, they all load faster because now it's not downloading every picture to make these icons. You can see in Cambodia or wherever I happen to go. I'm still working on making this a little faster. The folder loads a little slow, I felt. I'm not sure why. See Machu Picchu and such. Anyways, that works. So that's it. That's the icon cache. I've talked about that enough. Enough, Dustin. Enough. Stop. What's next? Not a huge amount, I feel. I might even skip some of these that were bugging me, but let's see where we get. So stable address bar. Yes, this is another thing. If you see the address bar here, this icon, if I start clicking in and out, you see it flickered there. I think it flickers a few more times. I can get it to flicker sometimes anyways, especially when you first open it. Watch, I open this, and now if I click out and in, there we go, it flickered. Anyways, it flickered once, and something visually happened here too. I don't know what. So let's fix the flicker. Oh, let me go back to the browser here and make a patch here. I don't even remember how I fixed this. I think it was something simple enough, and I think it goes back to refactoring with React sometimes, where you don't write yourself in a hole, but you write one thing and then you write another thing, and then that first thing you wrote doesn't make as much sense with the second thing you wrote. Oh, what is this? It hates my patch. Why? Probably because I changed something in the slightest way. All right, let's play that game. Let's just see what the changes are. Hopefully they're not too much. Oh, it involved cache icon too. Interesting. Wait, is that what this is? Fix cache flicker. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Ah, I made a mistake here. This one and this one I just did combined. This is the one I'm talking about. I talked about it, but then I clicked the wrong one again. So this patch should work. That's what I love about computers, you know, is that I made a mistake and then there was a consequence of that. And by following the trail of what happened, so the patch didn't work. Why didn't the patch work? You go back to the patch. Is the patch wrong? You could go to the line and look, or you could look at the patch and go, okay, this is the wrong patch, you know? There's that line of investigation with computers that's tangible. Oops. Or I don't know. That's just something about them that's mentally manageable to me that I've always liked, I guess. Let's see how I fix this. So I memoized something here. Ah, yes, the background image. So basically the styling. There's a few cases where I prefer to do this, and I just didn't lazily, is that sometimes I would pass the style straight in. Oh, actually, this is a different exception. But in general, sometimes for styling, it gets regenerated every time, and sometimes that can cause some wonkiness, especially with styled components, I found. So it's much better to memoize, use memoize, I don't know how you pronounce it, and make the styles just once. So only if the icon changes, which doesn't happen very often, then you make this. Then you apply the styling. What I was doing before is I was just straight up passing the icon along, and then in the address bar, I was using it and I had like these dynamic props, and then it was remaking this all the time. So it's just a type of dynamicness that you think you can do, and actually styled components will allow you to do it, and React will allow you to do it, but it doesn't mean you should do it. So let's try this now and see. Hopefully it won't flicker. So here's the icon here. There you go. So it's unflickerable now, which is nice. And in general, this is the kind of stuff that I see no one do. I mean, yeah, almost no one. I mean, maybe people are doing it and I don't notice when it's done well, I guess. But like Walmart.com, Amazon, any of the big people that got billions of dollars behind them, there's things like this on their site where it's like, why is it doing that? And you know, it's just kind of, I don't want to keep picking on them because I've mentioned this before, but it's one of those things where it's like, that's what makes something like what I'm doing special, is because there's just literally even companies that have billions of dollars aren't having their developers nitpick stuff. They're moving forward, you know, and just making new stuff. You know, we'll make a new one. You know, we're moving forward. That's how it is, and that's been my experience in these companies. And it's not a bad thing, but it doesn't typically produce works of art. Not that what I'm saying, my thing is a work of art necessarily, but that's not what they're going for. They're going for mass production, and that's not what I'm going for. You know, this thing, I mean, I'm releasing it next week. That's a year, but in my mind, it's like, this is my personal website for the rest of my life until whatever happens to the internet, you know? Either I'm going to die or the internet will disappear. But as long as it's around and I'm around, I'm going to try to keep this website going. And maybe the app will evolve, who knows, you know? I'll do it in some new version of React at some point. But I don't think most people have that long game in their heads because they're thinking profits, and I'm not. I mean, the profit, I guess, is the product, you know, to me. the result, the journey. Okay, what do I got left here? Oh man, I did a lot this day. I committed a lot. Sometimes I'll like write stuff the night before and then like split it into commits when I remember to do it. Use title adjustment. What did I adjust here? I think this was just standardizing this one with what another one is that I was passing base name. Or no, I wasn't passing base name. That might have been it. Or no, I was running base name to get the base name of a file path. But at the same time, internally in that function, I was also always running base name on what got returned. Or what was given to me, sorry. So it was a bit redundant. Let's see here. So here... So now I don't automatically apply base name. So in some cases, I needed to apply it. Like here, if this... Like, this is another thing that was happening. So app name is not related to something that needs base name. But app name was getting base name ran on it. Because if you go to use title here, where you pass it in, it was always doing base name all the time. So now it doesn't do that anymore. It just takes it in. And if it's blank, it treats it like how this blank was treating it. So I made these consistent too, because this is an append command and this is prepend. But otherwise, they're basically the same. But they were different enough to make two functions. Honestly, I guess they didn't need to be. But then I would have had to pass some other thing to say, am I appending or prepending? I decided to do it this way anyways. And yeah, that's the basic idea here. Added base name here. Added it here. Where did I remove it from? Added it here. At one point I thought I removed it from something, but it feels like I didn't now. Wasn't it happening when it shouldn't have been at some points? Was it here? Huh. Maybe not. Let me double check. Let me search now and see. Was I... Because now I have to run it every time. I guess before... Oh yeah, before I already was in most cases, but not all cases. Whatever then. Whatever. Use title adjustment. Done. Dunzerino in that one. What next? What next? Oh man, these new lights, they add some heat, I think. Or maybe it's in my head. Maybe it's this hoodie. Maybe my heat's working? It's not the heater working in my house. It doesn't seem to be working for some weird reason. Huh. I thought my wife said she fixed it, but perhaps not. What's next? Bookmark bar. What did I do here? Oh yes, this is the bookmark bar, the famous bookmark bar I was talking about. The bookmark bar, the bookmark bar. So I added some icons here as well. And this is another one I'm kind of proud of. This is a minor one. Some of these are the minor ones. Like, these were not on my whiteboard to be doing this week, some of these. But I just did them because I was like, this could be fun. And that is basically the entire concept of the project, honestly. This one I think has quite a few changes, so I actually underestimated. So here's the icon. So all the icons are 16 pixels in this case. We have the Minecraft one, we have JavaScript, JS Paint, we got a Google one, and we got the Diablo one. So that's my bookmark bar right now. I might add more, but these are the 4 that I thought of right now that work with cores and allow it to function properly. I also changed this to a string, this Google search query, because I wanted that when you do a search, that what you search can show up in the address bar. And to do that, I needed to know that the thing you're sending had the Google search query in it here, basically. What was next? Let's go to this one next, the config. So here's where I made my bookmarks. I might turn this into a file at some point. I'm not sure, but I was okay with it like this for now. Here's that query string. It's over here now. And here's the 4 bookmarks. So the Google one, the Minecraft one, the JS Paint, and the Diablo one. Actually, this is the homepage here, but maybe I could do it there. Let's put the bookmarks. I'd have to move the homepage up here. And then I can explicitly just make this the homepage. It's a little confusing, actually. Honestly, no, let's not do that. It's like coincidental that it's the homepage. I just wanted a bookmark to Google. I had to specify the same bookmark, though, because it has to have this part in it to work properly in the iframe. So I needed that. Anyways, that's the bookmark. Here's the icons and that function. We're okay with all that. Let's go through this piece. The index, that's the main piece. So now we update the title for the browser when we can. When we load the URL, when we set a URL, If the address bar contains that Google search query, then we take what was inputted as the query and we do query space dash space Google search, which is kind of how Google search does it. Otherwise, we check here if it's already listed in the bookmarks. So if for some reason you go to a URL that's in the bookmarks, or if you click one of the bookmarks, we know the title because we added it into the bookmark list. So we also update the title in that case. And I also check for the icon as well. So for the favicon, in the case of I think like JS Paint or Diablo, it doesn't allow me to, or doesn't have a I think for Minecraft, there is no favicon there, but its base domain had a favicon. So I took that favicon and I added to the bookmarks. So what happens is it tries to load the favicon, it gives an error, and then again I check for the bookmark, just like I do here. Is there a bookmark that's associated with the URL? And if there is, I use that icon. What else? And here's the bookmark bar itself. So it's just another nav right below the address bar. I basically just loop through that bookmark array with its name, its icon, and its URL, and I make buttons for them. When you click it, assuming there's an address bar, which there should be, then we update the path to the bookmark URL, and then we change the URL to trigger the change. And the title is the name of the bookmark. So when you hover over it, it'll do a little title alt tag. And the icon will always be 16 pixels, and that's it. That's it. As far as the styling, I've decided to just do the nav that's not the first child. I was thinking of having it be last child because the last thing is the bookmark bar. So maybe I'll just do that. Last child. Because I wouldn't want to apply this to two things. Yeah, the last child is the bookmark bar. It gets the border. This border was actually missing. That was a little detail that I added. The little there's supposed to be a one-line border separating the browser from the top bar. The height of the bookmark bar is 33 pixels, line to the left. It's got this padding. It's got this padding on the buttons. And I also did a little tweaking to the background color, just very minor. And same with this line height here. This line height was actually just to make the little text selection look a little different. So these are browser improvements in general, but let's take a look at the bookmark bar here. So we open the browser now, and it, for some reason, is centered. That's weird. That's really weird. That's really weird. Huh. I wonder why that's the case, because I absolutely did not look like this when I was developing it, and it's the same code. Maybe I applied... I don't understand that. Oh, you know what it is? It's the thing I just changed that I said was for the better, but obviously it didn't work. Let's just put this back to the way it was a second ago. Not first child. Okay, let's just stick to that. There we go. Now it looks the way it was supposed to look. So whatever to what I was doing earlier. Leave it as is. But there. So this bookmark bar looks basically just like, if I show you my bookmark bar here, it's the same idea. That's what I was trying to recreate here. So this is not Google Chrome. This is me recreating it, obviously. I mean, it's not perfect, so you can tell, but anyways. Now, if we click, let's say Minecraft, there we go. It'll load Minecraft Classic. And, you know, Minecraft's been giving me trouble. Oh, wait. This is another weird thing I noticed, that in the browser, if I'm in incognito mode, it doesn't load these properly. Even, like, the JS Paint one's another example. It complains about local storage. There's no theme. The Diablo one doesn't work. This won't be an issue for people that visit my site not in incognito mode, but there's some kind of Chrome thing where if you're in incognito mode, the iframe doesn't have enough access. Now, how to demo this to you properly? I mean, I guess I demoed the basic idea here. You see it loading. There's the JS Paint one. So the bookmarks work. The icons work. The title bar works. I also did the Google search one. Now shows the search here. But if I pick something that it doesn't know the title... If I can find something, here, this guy's website. Go to his website. Ugh. Okay, that website doesn't load. So, yeah, because of that, nothing changed properly. Yeah, that's the tricky thing with this browser. It doesn't know what you click inside the iframe. I can't control that. This browser's not perfect. Anyways, there's the bookmark bar. If you like it, great. If you don't, whatever. I like it. It works within the confines of what can be done. There's no new apps today. Let's remove that apps entry. far as I remember, there's no new apps today. Next, drag from OS to desktop by default. Oh yeah, this is something I preferred. So when you open, let me find another demo. I got no good demos. Let's do DOS games again. We'll just pick the DOS game archive. We'll just pick some game at random. Perhaps it'll work, perhaps it won't. Sure, world, whatever. Get out of here, ad. I hate ads. Ugh, it's too many of them. Okay, so we're not going to find a valid example here. I'm just going to find spam garbage ads. Tell you what I'll do. I'm going to drag one on, and you're just going to not know. So I open up boxed wine. It opens... Oh, wait. Is boxed wine going to work? I got a message here from xmaxim99x. So a virtual machine in a browser, kind of. It depends what you mean. I would say that this probably is more akin to like a remote desktop session because it's more customized, whereas the VMs are more throwaway feel. That being said, there are virtual machines in this, such as the Linux here. This is a virtual machine right here running Linux. I have a virtual machine to run Windows apps. I have a virtual machine for running DOS apps. What other ones do we have? Oh, yeah, this is buggy right now. I fixed that bug, but I remember that was about to crash. Somewhere here I fixed that bug. Let's get to the bug. I'm interested which part you mean with the virtual machine, if it's one of the apps or just the in general thing, but you could consider it that, sure. I mean, I'm trying to make it feel like you're in someone's computer, you're in a computer, but you're on a website. So a VM is applicable, I would say. So the basics for this one, let's apply the patch and then I'll try to explain what this does. Git apply this patch. Paste that in there. Basically, when you open an app, if you, from the desktop, drag something onto the app directly, it would load and it was saving it to the temp folder. That works. That's cool. It allows you to upload something and then load it into the app right away. But what I've decided is that I want it to load into the desktop, or to save to the desktop. That's the basics of it. Another thing here, just in general, from xmaxim. Yeah, I mean, just in general, sure, you could treat it like a virtual machine. You can drag and drop stuff in. It's ephemeral, I guess, in that you can just nuke it all. One thing to watch out for is if you do map directory, where you map your actual computer directory to it, and then you go into that directory and run my delete commands, it will delete your real files. So you got to watch out for that. That's it reaching in to give you a little reality. So I made a constant called desktop path that allowed me to not need it here. Here it is in constants. And it's a simple change. And then, yeah, basically instead of going to temp when it drags on, I go to desktop. Honestly, I don't know why I feel like that I explained that longer than was necessary for how the code actually looks. It was like nothing. What's next? Visual tweaks to PDF. We're going to fix that closing crash too, by the way, in a minute. Where was that? Optimizations. Fix. One of these is the fix. Let's just keep going down the list. We'll get to the fix. Visual tweaks for the PDF app. Another xmaxim message says gotcha. Cool. Yeah. If you have any other ideas for it, I'd be interested too. I'm always interested to hear people's impressions of it, because just anything like this where you go to and you're like, well, what is it? What is that? Or maybe people don't think that, and right away they're like, oh yeah, it's a virtual machine. I mean, I like if people have an early assumption that's proven wrong, like, oh, you're in a virtual machine. And it's like, wait a minute, that's not a picture. Those are like CSS elements. This is what is going on here. I want the confusion. I want people to be confused, lost, alone. No, I'm kidding. I don't want that. Although they are alone on my website, there's not much collaborative aspects to it at the moment. I'm hoping to have an IRC app in there soon. That'll be cool. What was this one? No, this is not what that is. This is the visual PDF stuff. I had the wrong thing on my clipboard. So what did I change here? I've turned the little current page, the first piece of the current page slash thing into an input box. I've also done the same for the zoom. I haven't currently added the functionality to allow you to edit the input boxes, but visually it looks more like the Chrome one now. And that's almost all I did. I adjusted the spacing ever so slightly. Yeah, that's about it. Pretty anticlimactic, but let's check it out anyways. Find a PDF here. There we go. So now you see this has a little black box here. This has a black box. A little more space around it. Pretty subtle. This is just my final tweaks as I try to get the apps to look as close to their the things that they come from. Might have to open the window a bit. Oh, yeah. The heat's on now. There we go. A little fresh air in here. Hopefully my lighting's looking more improved. I actually have a new monitor too on the side here that I was given by my work. Has a better resolution, so I can't tell if it's my monitor's better or if the lights are actually improving the quality as well. Hopefully it's a bit of both. I'll have to compare the first stream to the last stream on my TV and see the difference. Okay, so we applied the PDF tweaks. Those were so anticlimactic, I forgot I did it. Upgrade 3JS. I feel like I'm just going to do one rig upgrade. I'm not going to do this one today. Improve close handling for JS-DOS and v86. Yes, this is where I was having an issue with the Linux closing, I believe. Yeah, this is something in general I've ran into a bunch of times where on the end of my hook, the cleanup of the hooks, and also the triggering of the hooks, it's like my process, when it gets closed, that triggers an update. Or when it's closing, that triggers an update. When it gets deleted, that triggers an update. And some of the apps are able to run with those updates and impartial data. And that's what was going on here. And it was actually slowing things down too. So I'm happy that we have this fixed now for both JS-DOS and v86. They weren't properly checking before they were loading. And this actually creeped in when I added the ability to not have an app loaded. So when you could just open JS-DOS and you go to the DOS prompt, that having nothing was allowing it to get too far in these scenarios where there's actually no process and it's closing. Or it's closing. So I just added a little gate, basically, a little protection for it. And I've, again, got the wrong information on my clipboard here. There we go, improved close handling. And if we look, it's very simple. So before this was like assuming, it's like, hey, if there is no process here, pretend there's one. And then pretend closing exists as a Boolean and set it to false, basically. And that was confusing this thing, because it's like, well, it looks like it's okay. And now the URL's changed. The URL's changed to nothing, to being undefined. But I'm going to run with that. And that was the problem. So that should actually fix that demo I showed you a second ago when we were talking about virtual machines. And I opened Linux. This is using something called Virtual86. Now, if I close it, now it doesn't explode. That's better. Now, this is using something called JS-DOS. So I'm utilizing emulators that have been created for WebAssembly. A lot of my website's based on that. So I'm walking on the shoulders of giants, or however you say that. I'm stealing. But it's open source, so I'm not. What's next? Change author of extension. What the heck does that mean? Oh, yes, this is a minor change, but it seems like this extension for styled components is now outdated. And I have a list of recommended extensions that I store here. So I need to change this. Where is this? VS Code extensions. Yeah, this one here. Now it comes right from styled components, which is nicer anyways. I don't know if author is correct. I guess it is. Change author of styled component VS Code extension. Let's be explicit. Very little to do with my project, but partially in the subtlest way. Darker menu for Firefox instead of blur. Yes, so Firefox doesn't have the ability to do a backdrop filter of blur. So I decided to make the background a little darker in that case. How I've done that is I've set the default to be darker, and then I say when you do support backdrop filter, have the backdrop be a little lighter, because the blur will also kind of add contrast. But Firefox doesn't add that contrast. I also do that, so I do that for the start menu and for the sidebar. This is just me trying to get some last loose ends with Firefox. It's going to work in Chrome. It's going to work in Firefox. That's all I can promise you. It hopefully will work on mobile. It's been working for me. As I get closer to release and I start playing with it a bit more, and instead of coding for it all the time, I'm hoping to also iron out some kinks and add some more support. And also that'll be in my release notes. So visually, there's no point in demoing this. Just imagine a darker color. If you can. Some people can't imagine. Okay, what's next? Fix open with. Ah, yes, I noticed this open with logic actually was not correct. And fixed it. This is randomly something that's been wrong for a long time. So before, I was always assuming that the first process would be the default process, and that anything else would be the open with other things. But when you have a shortcut, you can say, I want to open this file and this process. And in that case, the process that it's going to open with anyways is not the default, is not necessarily the first thing on the list. So what was happening in the case of, let's say, this here Linux, if I right click, there's no open with menu, but there should be, because this Linux is an ISO, and it should be able to open with File Explorer. But ISOs by default open with File Explorer, I believe. Right, by default they open with File Explorer. So that was being treated as the default one and being removed. So the other open with was v86, and it's already opening with v86, so it wouldn't show anything in open with, which is a bit confusing. I mean, I made it confusing by confusing you. I did that on purpose. Let's apply the patch here. Maybe the patch will shine some light on some stuff. Probably not. Let's apply this patch and then just see. What was it again I did here? Right, yeah. Very simple. Like I said, basically just don't assume the default process is that extension process. Instead, you get it in this case. And what is this related to? Why does this need to exist? Where did this come from? PID icon. Oh, I guess I just moved this. This was just in the wrong spot. Why did I move this? Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I just moved this. All right. I don't know why I moved that one, but it's not relevant. Let's just see that open with is now working properly. Yeah, you see now we got open with v86 here, and the open with allows me to open it as File Explorer still. Great. So I'm going to go to the code. I'm going to copy this, paste it in my show notes, commit this, and then I'm going to read that chat message I saw from xmaxim. Kind of a random question, but what do you think the lifespan of React is looking like, since it's managed by Facebook and Next.js builds on top of it, as I understand? Yeah, I think Next.js has given it quite a bolster recently from people that used to use Create React app, and people that were like happy with Angular because it kind of had everything in a simple way to understand. That Next.js is what probably moved me more to React, and that's why I started this with it. And they definitely have a huge backing behind them. So I'd say it's going strong. Another thing with Next.js is they recently just acquired the Svelte guy, the guy who makes Svelte, which is another front-end framework. So Next.js is kind of rolling with this whole we do front-end frameworks kind of thing. Maybe they'll take some more of the React people, but I think React has got a good life for... That's a good question, by the way, xmaxim. Thank you. It's a good question, yeah. It's hard to say. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but I would say all the frameworks eventually disappear, you know? I mean, 20 years ago, jQuery was all the great stuff. It still exists today. It's going to be the same with React. 20 years from now, React will still be somewhere, probably, depending on... This isn't talking about AI and the world disappearing and the internet and gray goo or anything like that. So assuming the world stays stable and we're just talking about web development, then I'd still say less than 20 years, you know? Nothing lasts forever, so. But it's hard to say, you know, in the next 20 years, I feel like React itself could be made completely redundant. Or even just the idea of how we do web programming now and how it's somehow separate. You know, there's the desktop and there's the web. I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying to highlight in my app a bit, is like blur the lines. But at some point, you know, who's to say? I mean, half my WebAssembly apps are not written in JavaScript at all. They're written in like Rust and stuff. So I think the programming languages of the future could be all the languages, and you'll be able to pick which framework you want, maybe. But yeah, it's hard to say. I think whatever framework becomes popular, it's probably going to be another big company doing it anyways. Good question. That's a thinker. what have I done here? I did the fix open with. Yes. So where are we? Now we're in the memoizing stuff. You know, I'm almost unhappy with some of this. It's like, boy, did I go overboard with this. This explicit selection coloring. What's this one? This is an actual legit thing. I think I'm gonna skip all the memoize stuff. I keep humming and hawing about it over and over again, but it's like I need to get better at the performance measurements of this app before I start doing that again. Because I've been trying to do it a few times, and I'll start memoizing stuff being like, am I getting better? Am I getting closer? And then it's just like, now I've added so much code, it's insane. So I think I'm going to back away from that. Got a thanks from xmaxim. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for thinking my opinion is worth even asking, I guess. But yeah, it is an interesting thing. I guess, you know, who knows? Maybe one day I will be able to influence things more and be more involved. I have high aspirations for being involved in the open source community wherever I can and just wherever, you know. I mean, that's a huge thing with my recent job, getting my job. It's like I feel like the sky's the limit now. Who's to say which thing I'll get into next? So I'm not sure. It'll probably be something Microsoft related though, but hell, Microsoft's got a lot of cool stuff. I mean, we're writing TypeScript, that's Microsoft. We're in VS Code right now, that's Microsoft. I'm using Windows 10, that's Microsoft. I'm making a clone of Windows 10, that's Microsoft. I could be using Edge to demo this if I wanted. That would have been Microsoft, although it's using Chromium. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting place to be, so I'm just excited. I only just finished 2 weeks there, so who's to say how things will go? But I'm excited. Is this more memoization? Here it is as well. Yeah, I'm gonna ignore all those optimizations. This was just what was I doing here? This was just me being bored. This one I'll do. This is very minor, but it was I noticed it when I opened this test here, that it's like, it wanted me to have commit here, but actually this can be optional. And that assumes that this can be optional. Where is it here? This as well. There we go. It's subtle, but it fixes this test complaining, even though it wasn't causing an error. So let's say commit is optional. Oh wait, is there two things here? Oh man. I slipped that selection thing in there and then just zoned out to the fact that I hadn't even finished it. Let's first be clear what this was, because I was just in half discussion. So this selection, explicit selection, was the fact that, this is a weird one, but in mobile, the selected text had a coloring that was different than in desktop. And I'm not sure why that is, but if I just wanted to explicitly set it here, because this is the color I wanted. In desktop, it was always showing that color, but not in mobile, oddly enough. So first let's do this commit one, because I snuck that one in behind it. So commit is optional, yes. Oh, I closed my show notes too. Commit is optional. And then the last one was explicit selection coloring, just to make sure that even in mobile, the text color is accurate. Got a xmaxim message here again. I've got to run, but I'm going to go ahead and subscribe and try to catch your streams. Very interesting stuff. Cool, thanks. I mean, yeah, feel free to check the old streams and kind of see how the progress went. As I said, I'm cutting down on the Saturday streams, but I'm not going to cut down on streaming. I'm going to find better opportunities to stream and not just be like every Saturday at 9 I got to stream all the things that I've committed throughout the week. I'm going to do less of that. I'm going to do less work on the project because it's, well, maybe I won't do less work. Maybe when it's public I'll find more bugs. Who knows? I still got all these to do too. But the hope is that I'm going to take a break from that. I'm going to focus more on my job now that I'm working at Microsoft, which is pretty cool. I'm happy about it, like I was saying. And yeah, I just don't want to mess that up. So I need to focus more on that. I want to focus more on my family too. I mean, I've kind of given my Saturdays to them, but at the same time, it's been Saturday at 9 p.m. They're kind of, typically we're kind of winding down, but I'm going to try to spend more time with my wife during that. So I'm going to find a way to manage these streams better. I'm definitely going to keep up with the subscriber base. I mean, I've got this thing going, this project. I think it's just a transition. It's a transition to doing more videos about programming, the hardware and stuff that I'm getting, my job, and being a programmer. And I mean, there's so many jobs or so many videos I want to do, like a day in the life of the software developer. Those videos are always popular, and I've always liked those videos actually. I mean, they're kind of kitschy and stuff, but I enjoy them. And now that I have this job where it's like a dream software developer job, I mean, I'd love to. I want to do a video of that. That's insane. Like I went to the office the other day downtown, and it's like, whoa, this is crazy. I mean, I gotta ride the line with social media and the privacy and stuff there, and I'm gonna be completely respectful there and in all cases, and definitely don't want to risk anything about my job. But um, yeah, I want to transition this channel into more of that, and the stuff that people want. Honestly, no one's been asking for 52 3 hour 2 to 3 hour streams. I mean, maybe a couple people were, but that was just more because I needed to do that to make this project, and the project was the original dream. And now that I've got this 500 plus YouTube base of subscribers, and I've got this project, and I've got this job at the same time, all of it's kind of happened this year, and I want to funnel all that into continuing the project. I mean, now I just got these stream lights, I got the nano wall, the new keyboard. I'm gonna have a setup here. I want to get a couch, a table, because I have a laptop now, so sometimes I want to just chill out there. This is like the command station that I'm preparing, between my website that's gonna last forever. I got my command station. I'm just gonna be streaming forever is the hope, or until I get tired, I guess. But I'm not tired yet. So, and now X Maxim's gonna hang out with me as well in the streams, not in the streams, but he's subscribing, so he'll be apprised of the situation. Anyways, I think we have done every relevant commit that I wanted to do. Yeah, we have. So those are those. I'm gonna copy the bugs of the day here and paste them into my Google Notes for later consumption and fixing. Something I don't typically do during the streams, I'm gonna commit these stream notes as well. Usually I do it right at the end, but I don't know if I've ever done it on air, in fact. So maybe it's like a fun, as the last episode, a little weird thing is I'm gonna add the stream notes to the usual folder, because we added the stream as we were doing it. So let's add the stream notes. I'm gonna cut them from here, paste them here. There we go. Now they're in the stream notes folder here in my documents. I'm gonna rebuild the file system so it picks that up. Added stream notes. And I'm not gonna put that in the notes, funnily enough. I guess I could, but I'm not going to. Let's check it out. Let's see if it's in there now. So now we go to public, documents, stream notes, and we go to the end. And there we got it. From December 25th, we got our stream notes for today. We go into my videos, and we go into the videos for the streams. The picture's still broken. Yeah, that's fine. And we can watch the stream too. There we go. So we're in the stream, we're watching the stream, and we're looking at the stream notes for the stream in the app. These are some of the kind of things I wanted to do from the start, was to be able to do all this meta stuff, We could go look at my blog posts, before I release this, I'm gonna have blog post shortcuts. We can create shortcuts. So let's say I'm making one of these blog posts here, create shortcut. So this will be on my desktop. So when you come to my desktop, when you come to my homepage, and I'll get rid of this extension part, you would just see that. So let's say my newest blog post would be there, and you're like, oh, okay, what's this? And you click that. Oh, okay, this is his new blog post. Cool. And he's got these, there's a picture there. Oh, the picture opens here. Cool, you can look at it there. You can look at me moving to Vancouver, getting all my IKEA stuff with my wife. I mean, this is just one blog post. You can put it in a full screen. You can click here and you can edit it. It's like, I don't like this part of his post. I'm gonna delete that. Yeah. This image, we can move this image to, wait, why can't I click that image to move it? Oh, I found a bug. Well, I've already finished my stream notes, but I'll make a note of this bug. So in edit mode, TinyMCE should not allow clicking pictures. Yeah. So the clicking picture feature is something I added, but I didn't think that when you're in TinyMCE edit mode, you should be able to click it to edit the picture, not to open it. But yeah, you can save it like that. So I save that and then I open it back up, and now it's edited still. So if a user came in, I mean, you can basically just mess with my site any way you want, and it's all ephemeral. It's not real. But yeah, this is the platform basically. Well, why'd the folder open like that? That's weird. Huh. I thought I cleared the cache the first time, but it actually didn't act like the cache cleared. Okay. Anyways, that's it, I think. We're done the stream. So please, if you like this video, throw me a like. If you want to subscribe like xmaxim99x did, then please subscribe. It motivates me. You're going to keep up on all this new stuff that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be posting more videos more often, shorter ones, about my job at Microsoft that I just started, about programming, about my experience as a self-taught developer, about releasing my app here that I just created, this OS in the browser and all the things it does. I'm going to do little videos kind of featuring all the different things, one piece after another. I finally should get to that video about my travels. If you see from the picture there and from you'll see in the website, I've traveled to 50 countries over 4 years by myself alone. I'd like to do a blog about that, a video about that. Who knows what else, life, code, tech, anything like that. I'm into it all those things. And please subscribe if you're interested in that. You want to check out more things about me, about what I'm doing. Other than that, let's leave it at that for today. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you Sunday, 8 days from now, for the release party, January 2nd. I started this on January 2nd. I'm going to end it on January 2nd. It's the 53rd stream, but it's not going to be a stream. We're done with the streams. It's time for the release party. After that day, you can go to dustinbrett.com and we can play with this. You can do whatever you want with it. It's yours to play with. I'm going to have it set up. So thanks. Thanks for going on this journey with me this year, and I'll see you at the release party perhaps. So goodbye.